Have you ever walked into a room and noticed people shifting just slightly away? Not out of rudeness, but something unspoken, something felt. It's not your age. It's not your story. It might be something as simple as your scent lingering too long after you've gone, or the same shirt worn day after day. And the truth is, no one will say it to your face. But they notice, they feel it, they quietly respond. This is the unspoken weight of elderly personal hygiene, not the dramatic kind, but the small, quiet shifts that speak volumes. You see, growing older brings many changes, but losing self-respect should never be one of them. When you stop brushing your hair, when your clothes look slept in, when your nails grow longer than they should, people stop seeing the strength you once carried. They see withdrawal. They feel discomfort. Social discomfort seniors face often begins here, not in words, but in whispers of energy. And while no one dares mention it, they start sitting farther away. Visits grow shorter. The warmth of hugs gets replaced by hesitant smiles. But here's what's powerful. This isn't irreversible. Taking care of yourself, even just a clean shirt, fresh breath, trimmed nails, sends a message to the world. I still value myself, and I still value you. That simple act of self-care is a declaration of dignity. It radiates a quiet kind of elderly wisdom, the kind that says, I am still present, still aware, still here. Your presence is felt long before you speak. Your hygiene reflects how much you still care. It's not vanity. It's vitality. It's not for others. It's for you. And when you walk into a room clean, fresh, and polished, even in the simplest way, you remind the world that age doesn't dim your light. It sharpens it. You reclaim your space with grace. And that changes everything. Let's move forward. As we age, the filter between our thoughts and our tongue starts to thin. Maybe you've caught yourself saying, I've earned the right to speak my mind. And maybe that's true. But just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be said. The power of words never fades. And when they're sharp, sarcastic, or cutting, they don't feel like wisdom. They feel like wounds. Here's the thing about senior communication skills. The line between honesty and cruelty is thinner than we think. A comment about someone's weight, a jab about their parenting, a mocking remark masked as humor. These aren't just jokes. These are reasons people slowly pull away. They stop inviting you. They stop sharing. They shrink inside. You might say, people today are too sensitive. But the reality is, people have always been sensitive. What's changed is that they're less willing to tolerate what makes them feel judged. That doesn't mean you have to walk on eggshells. It means you pause before you speak. Ask yourself, is this helpful? Is it kind? Healthy aging tips include more than diet and exercise. It includes emotional awareness. It includes choosing compassion over correction. The more you listen, the more they'll want to hear your voice. When your truth is wrapped in empathy, people lean in. When it's wrapped in judgment, they shut down. So if your words are pushing people away, it might be time to trade bluntness for presence. Trade the need to be right for the desire to be remembered fondly, because elderly social behavior matters. And your legacy isn't just what you did in the past. It's how you make people feel now. Let that feeling be one of warmth. Let it be one of wisdom. Let it be one that stays long after you've left the room. You don't need to wear a designer suit or dye your hair to look good. But whether we admit it or not, the way we dress speaks before we do. Clothes too loose, shirts stretched and faded, pants that hang awkwardly. These things say something, even when we don't. They say, I've stopped caring. And others, silently, start caring a little less too. We all crave comfort. But aging lifestyle issues begin when comfort turns into indifference. What once was a favorite outfit can become a blind spot. You may not notice the outdated colors or the way that shirt hugs too tight in the wrong places. But the world does. And though no one comments, you might sense it, the shift in how people look at you, the lack of compliments, the fading attention. But here's the truth. You don't have to dress young to dress well. You simply need to dress like someone who still values being seen. A well-fitting shirt, a pair of pants that complement your shape, a scarf with a soft hue. These are not about fashion. They're about presence. And presence is what makes people pay attention. Respect comes easier to those who appear to respect themselves. Senior social habits aren't just about conversation. They're about presentation. The first impression still matters, even at 70. Especially at 70. Because that's when people least expect you to care. And when you do, it surprises them in the best way. Dressing with care doesn't mean chasing trends. It means signaling that you still want to belong, you still matter, and you still shine in your own quiet, grounded, elegant way. Let the world see you, and let what they see be worthy of your journey. You've lived a full life. You've seen things, learned lessons, earned your voice, so it's only natural to want to share what you know. But sometimes, in the rush to teach, to explain, to help something, precious gets lost. Space for others to speak. To feel heard. To feel seen. What starts as a helpful story becomes a 10-minute monologue. A memory turns into a lecture. And soon, the people sitting around you are nodding politely, eyes darting to the clock. Not because they don't love you, but because they don't feel part of the conversation anymore. It's become a one-way street. This is where senior communication skills meet humility. The wisdom you've earned, your elderly wisdom, carries more weight when it's delivered gently, when it's invited, not imposed. Sometimes, listening is the most powerful thing you can do. Not waiting to speak, not preparing your next point. Just listening. Really listening. The truth is, when we interrupt, when we dominate, we don't mean to shut others down. But that's often the impact. And slowly, silently, people step back. They call less. They keep things surface level. And you wonder why you feel distant from those you love. But you can shift that. You can pause and let silence sit for a second longer. You can ask a question and let it breathe. You can resist the urge to fix and instead say, "That sounds tough. How are you feeling about it?" That small change, choosing curiosity over correction, builds bridges across generations. Your stories matter, but they matter more when they're offered with care. Not as a spotlight, but as a gift. People will lean in not because they have to, but because they want to. Because when you make space for them, they'll make space for you. And isn't that what healthy aging tips are all about? Growing older without growing distant. Staying wise without becoming overpowering. Being heard by first choosing to hear. It often starts small. A comment about kids these days. A remark about how, back in my day, we didn't need all this technology. Maybe even a joke, half laughed, half meant. But over time, these observations turn into walls. Walls that separate you from your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, even if they're standing right next to you. Here's the quiet truth about elderly social behavior. When we constantly criticize the younger generation, we don't come across as wise. We come across as bitter. What you might see as truth, others hear as rejection. They stop opening up. They keep their thoughts light. They avoid anything real because they're afraid of being judged. You may not mean it that way. You may just be trying to understand. But what comes out can sound like you're not doing life right. And that hurts. That silences. That separates. And yet, this too is something we can change. When you replace judgment with curiosity, walls turn into bridges. Instead of saying they have it easy, you ask, what's it like trying to find your way in this world today? Instead of assuming You invite. Instead of resisting change, you explore it. Senior social habits that connect, not divide, begin with openness. Not agreement, just openness. You don't have to embrace every new trend. You don't have to nod along to every opinion. But if you meet people with respect instead of resistance, you'll find they come to you with honesty instead of hesitation. You become more than just the elder in the room. You become the one they admire, the one they trust. Not because you're always right, but because you're always listening. And in today's world, that kind of presence is more rare and more powerful than ever. The world is changing faster than ever. And sometimes, without realizing it, we fall out of sync. We talk on speakerphone in quiet cafes. We play videos in waiting rooms without headphones. We stand too close in lines or speak too loudly in public. And no one tells us to stop, but they notice. They shift away. They grow uncomfortable. This is where social discomfort seniors experience often begins not in what's said, but in what's felt, a glance, a sigh, a subtle move to another seat. You may not mean harm, but the signal others receive is they're not aware. And in a world where courtesy is currency, unawareness costs connection. The good news? This is one of the easiest things to adjust. Just notice. Watch how others navigate space, how they manage volume, how they show consideration in shared spaces. This is not about being rigid. It's about being respectful. And healthy aging tips include emotional and social awareness too. When you move with mindfulness, people notice. You become the person who's considerate, not careless. Present, not pushy. And you send a quiet but powerful message. I may be older, but I'm still evolving, still paying attention, still engaged in the world around me. Elderly wisdom shines. Brightest when it adapts, not perfectly, but purposefully. And sometimes, the smallest changes like putting in earbuds, stepping aside, or lowering your voice open the biggest doors to connection and respect. There's a certain rhythm to conversations among older adults. The knee pain, the blood pressure, the upcoming test results. It's understandable. Aging comes with real challenges, and sharing those can feel like bonding. But what begins as connection can quickly turn into fatigue, especially for the people listening. You may not even realize it. You're just speaking honestly about your day. But for your children, your friends, your grandchildren, it starts to feel like a doctor's waiting room instead of a relationship. And slowly they pull back, not because they don't care, but because they don't know what else to say. They feel helpless. They feel heavy. They feel overwhelmed. This is where elderly social behavior quietly changes the emotional tone of your relationships. When every conversation circles back to symptoms, surgeries, or side effects, the people around you stop looking forward to time with you. Not because they're cold, but because it's too much done. So what can you do? Balance. Yes, share what you're going through, but don't let it define you. Talk about the book you're reading, the bird you saw outside the window, the funny thing your neighbor's cat did. Show them that your world is still full of life, not just appointments. Because when your words reflect more than just illness, your presence becomes lighter, more welcome, more you. Healthy aging tips aren't only about managing illness. They're about preserving joy, protecting connection, maintaining your role as a whole person, not just a patient. Your body may be changing, but your spirit still has stories. And those stories are worth telling. You deserve empathy. But don't let your health be the only door people can walk through to reach you. Open the others. Invite them in. You've built your life on certain values, principles that guided you, protected you, shaped you. But as time passes, the world around you shifts. People live differently, love differently, think differently. And that can be unsettling dots, so you hold firm. You say, that's just how it is. You shake your head at new ideas. You insist, I know what's right. And while your certainty may feel like strength, others may quietly interpret it as something else: resistance. Aging lifestyle issues often arise not from the body, but from the mind refusing to flex. You don't have to agree with every change, but when you dismiss new perspectives entirely, you close the door on connection. Younger people stop asking your thoughts, not because they don't care, but because they don't want to feel judged. The conversation dries up. The warmth fades. But when you stay curious, when you say, tell me more, instead of that's wrong, everything changes. You shift from a wall to a window. You let the light in. Elderly wisdom isn't rigid. It evolves. It questions. It listens. It finds the courage to update what no longer serves. Because being relevant isn't about being trendy. It's about being open. Humble enough to admit, I hadn't thought of it that way before. And here's the surprise. Sometimes you change your mind. Sometimes you soften. Sometimes the person you thought was lost teaches you something profound. That's not weakness. That's grace. The strongest elders are not the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who are still willing to learn. You walk slower now. Maybe your knees ache. Maybe your balance isn't what it used to be. That's okay. But what isn't okay, what often goes unnoticed, is how that slower movement sometimes becomes unaware movement. Standing with your cart blocking the entire grocery aisle. Stopping suddenly in the middle of a crowded walkway. Drifting side to side without realizing others are trying to pass. These aren't crimes. They're not malicious. But they quietly frustrate the people around you. And the problem isn't your pace. It's your awareness, Dodd. This is a common social discomfort seniors unintentionally cause. Not through action, but through inattention. Most people won't say a word. They'll just sigh. Step around. Avoid inviting you out. Not because they dislike you, but because being with you feels like managing you. And that's not how connection grows. The truth is, you can move slowly and still move thoughtfully. Stay to one side. Look around before pausing. Notice the flow of people. When you move with intention, people feel respected. They feel seen. Senior. Social habits like spatial awareness speak volumes. They show that you're still present in the shared world, not just navigating your own. That small courtesy makes you stand out, not for slowing others down, but for walking beside them with grace. In the end, it's not about speed. It's about presence. And your presence can be a source of peace, not friction, when it's guided by awareness. A good laugh can bridge generations, ease tension, and make people feel closer. But not all humor travels well through time. Some jokes that once got chuckles decades ago now land with a thud or worse, discomfort. And you might not even notice it. You're just joking, right? Just being playful. Just saying what you've always said. But what you may not see is how others react. The polite smile. The awkward silence. The slight shift in their posture. These moments are subtle, but they add up. People may laugh to be polite, but deep down, they feel disconnected. This is one of the most overlooked senior social habits, clinging to outdated humor. Maybe it's sarcasm that stings. Maybe it's teasing that goes too far. Maybe it's a joke that pokes fun at someone's background, appearance, or way of life. You follow up with "I'm just kidding," or "lighten up," but the damage is already done. And over time, people stop wanting to be around that energy. Elderly wisdom means knowing when humor is lifting the room and when it's quietly tearing someone down. The best jokes aren't the ones that make others feel small. They're the ones that make everyone feel part of something. Warm, included, safe. You don't have to censor yourself completely, but you do have to update your awareness. Ask yourself, is this funny because it's clever or because it cuts? Would I want someone to say this to my grandchild? If the answer is no, maybe, it's time to let that joke go. And here's something beautiful. One of the most powerful forms of humor is self-deprecating. Laughing at your own quirks. Sharing your missteps. Showing that you're not above the moment, but fully in it. That kind of humor makes people feel close to you. It shows humility. It builds trust up, so keep your laughter. Keep your joy, but shape it with thoughtfulness. Let your humor be a tool for connection, not a wedge. Because at this stage in life, nothing is more valuable than being the person people want to be around. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Aging brings real challenges, physical, emotional, even technical. But there's a quiet line between needing help and defaulting to helplessness. And when that line gets crossed too often, it changes how others see you. You might find yourself saying, "Can you just do this for me?" Or, "I'll mess it up anyway." At first, those moments feel harmless. But over time, they send a different message, one that whispers, "I've stopped trying." And the people around you begin to feel the weight. They love you, yes. But inside, they start to feel like caretakers, not companions. This isn't laziness. It's often fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of not being able to keep up. Fear of looking silly. So we let others do the lifting, the figuring out, the decision-making. And with every small surrender, our independence slips just a little more. But here's the truth that most people won't say out loud. People admire effort more than ease. They'd rather see you try and wobble than give up before you begin. When you carry your own bag, even if it's light. When you try to learn the new remote, even if it takes a few extra minutes. When you ask for help only when it's needed, not by habit, you don't just preserve dignity. You inspire it. This is one of the most empowering healthy aging tips you can live by. Reclaim the small things, the everyday tasks, the little wins. They add up to something much bigger. Your agency, your self-respect, your place in the world. Being aging gracefully doesn't mean pretending to be 40 again. It means standing tall in what you can do. It means knowing when to ask and when to say, "I've got this." That balance, that quiet strength is where true respect is born. And people will see it. They'll feel it. And they'll meet you in that space not with burden, but with pride. After a lifetime of lessons, experiences, and hard-earned truths, it's easy to believe you know. You've seen enough. You've lived enough. You've figured it out. And, in many ways, you have. But when that confidence turns into certainty, when being right becomes more important than being kind, that's when something sacred gets lost. You may find yourself interrupting with corrections. Insisting your way is the only sensible way. Dismissing others with a wave and a "trust me, I know better." And while it may feel harmless, over time, it creates distance. People stop sharing. They stop opening up. Not because they're convinced, but because it's easier to stay quiet. This is one of the most common, yet unspoken aging lifestyle issues, confusing wisdom with control. But elderly wisdom isn't about proving a point. It's about making space, listening with curiosity, offering your thoughts with humility. And here's the irony. The less you insist, the more people seek your advice. The less you correct, the more your words carry weight. Because when you speak from reflection, not from ego, people lean in. They remember. They grow. The elders we admire most are not the loudest. They're the ones who made us feel heard, safe, respected. They're the ones who challenged us gently, invited us to think, and allowed us to find our own way. Be that person. Let your presence be a safe place, not a battleground. Let your knowledge come wrapped in patience. Let your dignity be rooted in openness. That's what lasts. Not being right, but being remembered for how you made others feel. These 12 habits, they don't make you bad. They make you human. And like all habits, they're changeable. That's the gift of self-awareness. It gives you a second chance. A chance to adjust, to reconnect, to choose dignity over distance, presence over pride, and curiosity over certainty. Elderly wisdom isn't about clinging to the past. It's about showing up in the present fully, gently, and with grace. You still have time. You still have power. And most importantly, you still have influence. So if even one of these habits spoke to you today, I invite you to take one small step. Change one small thing. You might be surprised how much opens up from there. If this message touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. And if someone you love could use this message, don't keep it to yourself, share it. Your voice helps our community grow stronger, kinder, and wiser. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next